Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is politics done right.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right, and that is the way we do it. Today we're going to be having open forum. You can actually call in. You can actually text in. Well, actually, I said you can chat, right? Well, guess what? Yours truly has done thus far. I did not enable the chat room. So, folks, for those of you who attempted to chat, the room is now... Well, the room will be open in a little bit. So what are we going to talk about today? You know what? I don't know. You're going to tell me, or I already have a couple of tweets here that says... what you want to talk about. We're going to talk about the election. Yes, we're going to talk about the election. What do you think about Bernie Sanders? Is Bernie Sanders going to do it? What do you think about Hillary Clinton? Is Hillary Clinton going to do it? And what about that good old genius? Who's the genius again? Donald Trump, the guy who knows everything, right? I see that Flores Gil 1 wants to talk about Kanye West as president. Well, if you really want to talk about Kanye West as president, why don't you give me a call at 646-929-2495? And you know what? You won't just be here on Periscope, but you'll actually be on air. So give me a call at 646-929-2495. You can't. Whoa, you're from the UK. Well, you can always Skype in. There are a lot of these free tools now that you can actually use to make calls into these shows. You know, it's a new world. It's a different world now. We have people that call in from Israel, from Egypt, from just about everywhere into the show. So I'm sure you can jump on the internet and find some way to call or talk. And if you can't, just get onto the internet and look for coffeepartyusa.com and you'll on our Facebook page, and you'll have a link directly where you can actually type in and have a bi-directional communication with myself and any other of the Coffee Party directors that will come on later on. Anyhow, anybody who saw the Bill Maher thing yesterday? Oh, I forgot to tell you. Our hashtag is hashtag Politics Done Right. All one word. Politics Done Right. That is what I follow as well on the Twitter code. So again, the Twitter handle is Egberto Willies. True Wrestler, great to see you here again. Nice hearing from you. Where are you again? I don't quite remember. But anyhow, again, you can hashtag Politics Done Right, and we can get moving. Did anybody see Bill Maher last night? Let's see. Anybody saw Bill Maher? Let me see some answers there on Periscope. Oh, you're in Hot Springs, Virginia. Beautiful place. Been there once. You know, there's also a Hot Springs, Arkansas. Hot Springs, Arkansas is a pretty nice place. Really has hot springs. Hot Springs, Virginia. I don't remember if you guys actually had hot springs in Virginia. But anyhow, I'm following Politics Done Right hashtag, going to Egberto Willies or to any other one. So, hi Justin, how are you doing? Great to see you again. Anyhow, anybody saw Bill Maher? Bill Maher had an interesting thing where he pretty much downed the internet as he also said that Republicans pretty much use the internet for lying, etc. Well, you know, it's not only the Republicans that use the internet for lying. Just about everybody and their mother uses the internet to lie. But I found his commentary a bit offhand, because what he really did is he dogged the internet. He said that the internet was a bastion of lies, pretty much. What he tried to say is that nothing good, in effect, is coming from the internet. There could be nothing further from the truth. So what I did is I decided that the blog of the week. You know, we have our blog of the week that we do here every time, both on KPFT and both for Coffee Party Radio. The blog of the week is going to be on what Bill Maher had to say. So, without further ado,
It's time for the weekly blog post.
Justin, I'm going to answer you about the Bundys after I read the blog of the week, okay? So let's talk about, let me just get through the blog of the week, and then we'll talk about what I think about the Bundys and anything else that you guys want to talk about. And just don't forget, type, I'm reading the screen so that I can actually know what you want to talk about. But here it goes. I named it Bill Maher's Take on Internet and Republican Candidates Just Making... Let me see. I'm on Twitter. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on, so I can say this. Bill Maher's take on internet and Republican candidates just making shit up, only partially true. Very important. Here it goes. Bill Maher did not mince words as he called out the internet as the enabler of lies that Republican politicians no longer fear about being caught on. He got it mostly right. Maher starts his final rule in his New Rules skit with a statement that is only partially true. We can all stop asking the question, why isn't our government functioning? Bill Maher said, why? Because truth is dead and the internet killed it. Is that true? Maher went on to say that at first it was believed that the internet would put the totality of world knowledge at our fingertips. He said somewhere along the way the internet became BS Boulevard, where truth became roadkill. Bill Maher, while hip, shows he is an agent hip. Why? He is correct that the internet has a lot of misinformation, bad information, and all out nutty information, but it also provides a bonanza of crowdsourced and academia knowledge. You know what? The internet is a tool that can be misused like any other tool. We must educate Americans that things are not true because it is on the internet. As with any other tool, it must be calibrated. And what does calibration really mean? The calibration means finding trusted sources and validating new sources for worthiness. Don't you agree with that? Think about what I'm saying there. It's very important. Now, lies are the new truth, said Bill Maher. Yes, more than ever, people are living as an entire fact-free lifestyle. Yeah, we know a lot of people are doing that. They are in a fact-free zone, which is great news for the Republican candidates. Why? Because when they are confronted on the lies now, they just say, oh, I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to fact check me. Because my fans don't care, I don't care. Anyhow, going on with vote Trump. That's funny. Maher is absolutely right. But that has little to do with the internet. It has to do with those who are willfully ignorant. They want an outcome and find the made-up information knowingly to fit that desire. Yeah. Today the internet is the tool. Today the internet is the tool that can be used to placate the ignorant. Right? Yesteryear there were local organizations, leaflet, chain letters, and all the works. And TV, radio, everything else. So what's the same? Bill Maher went on to give examples where Ted Cruz, Carly Fiorina, and Donald Trump blatantly lied. They were debunked but simply did not care as they repeated the lie over lie over lie. Carly Fiorina is still talking about the Planned Parenthood videos that wasn't really real as she continues her attack on the organization. Ironically, the two people who made up all those lies, guess what? For all those people who made up those lies, they're going to jail. They were indicted. Ted Cruz is lying about the government trying to force boys and girls to shower. Donald Trump is lying his butt off. Guess what he's lying about? We all know what he's lying about. He's lying about Muslims. He's lying about everything else. Anyway, yes, the internet has a bastion of misinformation, lies, but every single one of the lies by these candidates can be debunked if one uses the internet as a tool, and it is much faster to do that in the pre-internet. Or rather, it is much faster to debunk them now in the internet days than it was in the pre-internet days. Hey folks, his nose is shaped like a vegetable. I didn't know my nose was shaped like a vegetable. Look at those teeth. Oh my God, I have big teeth is what they're telling me on Periscope. That's cool, but you know what? It's all about the message. I've never been one of those self-conscious people. Let's get busy about what you want to talk about. All right, folks, we have a whole ton of listeners on, several hundred now. So let's do a deal here, okay? Start telling me what you want me to talk about or what you want to say. I see a whole lot of a lot of you just scrolling out. Okay, good. All right. One question was, what do I think about the Bundys? Well, the Bundys. Here it is about the Bundys. Let's be frank. Look at me. Or for the folks who are listening, listen to me. And hello, person on Skype and on Coffee Party. If any of those people at that ranch or whatever that federal camp out was, if any of them there looked anything like me or like the indigenous people of that area, there would never have been a standoff for a month at all. That's a fact. And we know that. Why? Because it has happened before. Let's take Pittsburgh, let's take Philadelphia, and all these other places where these types of incidents had occurred. Now, am I glad that nothing happened or that just one person got killed and it was, for the most part, ended rather peacefully? Nobody in the community got hurt. Of course, I am happy about that. But what this gives good proof of is something known in this country that many people like to get away from, known as privilege. There are some of us in our society, and we don't need to be defensive about it, in this society who have more privilege. Some have more privilege than others. What do we do about it? We talk about it. And when we talk about it, we can make it real for others, those who can empathize, those who can say, this is what you're talking about. Yes, I mean, it is called white privilege. I'm listening to Periscope. Yes, you're correct. It is white privilege. What I like to do, however, is not specifically always talk about white privilege, because there are other privileges as well. In America, white privilege is the predominant privilege, but there are others as well. Oprah has a certain type of privilege in as much as she is a black person. She has a certain privilege that some people in Appalachia do not. So it is important that what we do is be honest in the conversations that we have, so that people can then make rational decisions and people can come to honest decisions based on what they're saying. Do I have a dream too? Of course I have a dream. My dream is that the same dream that Martin Luther King or Malcolm X had, that we can all live in peace and everybody respect each other. Absolutely so. Okay, what else do you guys want to talk about? I think you know my position on Bundy. If it were other people in that compound, it would have been over long time ago. What else do you want to talk about? Plain guys, or I have a message here on a Coffee Party, a radio, on Blog Talk Radio, that says these guys were terrorists. I think that is an important thing that you just said there. You are correct. The Bundys are terrorists. Period. All those men if you look at the definition of terrorism, what they tried to portray there was in effect a terrorist act. Now the media, and since you brought that up, my friend, okay, I'll talk about Flint, Michigan in a little bit as well too. I'm glad you brought that up, Joseph. Here's the deal. If it were a group of Muslims who said that the reason they are in that compound was to protest Mr. Trump's Islamophobia, it is quite evident that they would blow the bejesus out of those guys. And not only that, Americans would more than likely be supportive of that. So let's be real here. Let's be honest. Let's try to empathize with what has occurred here. Yes, it should scare you. Yes, it should scare you. I don't think that's what I am, Ismail Osabaki. I think I'm better. I'm a little bit better than that, but that's okay. Now, the other person wanted to speak about Flint, Michigan. Let's talk about Flint, Michigan. I don't know how many foreigners are online, but let me just tell a quick story for the foreigners that are currently online who don't understand what Flint is or what Flint, Michigan is. Flint, Michigan is an old industrial town that was rather wealthy and rich when the car business was, when we had a great automobile business, when we were really building cars and their parts in the United States of America. The city has then, it was also responsible for building up a lot of folks and putting them into the American middle class. And when it swept all these people into the middle class, it also swept a whole lot of minorities, blacks, Hispanos, Hispanics, Latinos, everybody into the middle class. Well, when the car companies left, we got blight. We got a whole lot of these cities that simply shut down. And who are the people who were left in the city? First generation middle class people don't generally have where to fall back on. Middle class folks who've had a back-in have always had where to fall back on. They could go to another town. They could go to another city where they have relatives who have money. A lot of those first-time minorities and others that came into Flint and made it into the middle class, when that city cratered, where did they have to go? Nowhere. So what happened then? The city became a majority-minority city. When we speak about privilege again, what we are talking about again is then what happens to a city when that occurs. They tend to get less resources from the state government. And that is exactly what happened to Flint. So Flint went into disrepair. Flint went into a a haven where there was not enough taxes to take care of the system in fact and other things. So Michigan has a law known as the emergency, I think it's called the emergency manager law. That is the name we give it. And what it is, it's a destruction of democracy. What it says is, if you have a city where it cannot meet its own needs and the elected people somehow they believe are not doing the job that they're doing, the governor can come in and say, I will appoint a dictator in your city. Your elected officials have no power and you will do what we tell you to do. And that is exactly what happened in Flint. Governor Snyder, the governor of Michigan, decided that he would appoint a dictator to Flint, Michigan. And when he applied that dictator, they decided to do what, in general, in effect, he followed the Republican ideology. Cut, 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 not invest, invest, invest. He had two choices. He could have come in and he could have said, Governor, I need X amount of money to invest in this city so we can make this city a viable city again. Invest in the most important resource you have. And what is the most important resource you have? The people. The people. But he didn't do that. He did not invest in the people. He tried to simply cut cost. Of course, if you're simply going to cut cost and not invest in anything else, nothing grows. You're in a spiral of decline. And that is exactly what happened to Flint, Michigan. We had a complete spiral of decline. What did the emergency manager do? Oh, they wanted to save $15 million. So to save $15 million, they used to bring their water from Detroit, whose water supply was the glacier melt of the Great Lakes that was coming up to Flint. Well, he decided, too expensive to bring that water in. We can save $15 million. So what we will do is go to the polluted Flint River. Remember, that was an industrial area. All those waterways still have a whole lot of heavy metals, corrosive metals, all these different issues. So they decided to go ahead and bring the water from the Flint River. The Flint River is a corrosive river. Now, the infrastructure, the pipes in Flint, Michigan, they're old. Many of them are made of lead. That wasn't too bad because over the decades, that lead was covered with biomaterial as well as calcification and all these other things that protected the pipes from leaching the lead within the pipe itself into the water supply. If you cut an old pipe, what you'll find within that old pipe is you'll see calcium and all these other buildups. That was pretty much an insulation that prevented that water, that lead, from leaching into the water supply. So the water was, for all practical purposes, safe. When they changed the water supply from clean glacial water to a water that had copper and other minerals and other chemicals that can combine with these other issues, with the lead in the pipes, what happened? It cleaned out a lot of the calcification. It cleaned out a lot of that film. And immediately thereafter, what occurred? Immediately thereafter, lead started to leach into the water supply. 100,000 people in Flint were exposed to lead. 100,000 people in Flint were exposed to lead. This has been going on for over a year. The question is, how comes the media never, ever took it on air nationally? That is a national disaster that a major city in the United States of America, okay, that a United States city in America is actually being poisoned by its own government. That is a big story. Absent the great journalistic aptitude of Rachel Maddow, we would not have heard this story nationally. Yes, to be honest, on my blog, egbertowillies.com, and on politicsdoneright.com, I covered a lot of this story beforehand. But it never got traction because it didn't have the big media push that would normally come with a story of this sort. Now, does anybody here think if Flint was not a majority-minority city, that this would not have been taken over the airwaves like a national disaster of a government poisoning its citizens? Do you not believe this would have been a very, very large story? Of course it would have been a very, very large story, but it wasn't. So in effect now, what they're doing is they're giving away free water. But look, you can, hell yeah, you're right, Toot Sweetie. Hell yeah, it would have been a huge story. It would have been a big story. But it was not a big story because of where it is, who was involved. And I mean, it is just an embarrassment for all of those of us that came to this country from places that America loved to call third world countries. I mean, I'm from Central America. The countries in Central America, they are always called, oh, you are from a third world country. The reality is, I have never, in my country of origin, I'm an American now, but in my country of origin, I had never ever seen a water supply problem of any city, major or minor, in that country, where these people, where its people were put at risk, and not only put at risk, but where a state has taken away the future of many children by poisoning them with lead. That is a national disaster. And the fact that very few are talking about that is a national shame. It's a national disaster. It's a national shame. Anyhow, that's pretty much where it is with Flint, Michigan. What else would you guys want to talk about? We spoke about Flint, Michigan. We spoke about the Bundys. I spoke about Bill Maher talking about the lies. Oh, you want to talk about Trump too, sweetie? Tell me what you want to talk about Trump. What would you like us to talk about Trump? Trump. Can Trump win? Can Trump become the president of the United States? Okay, before, Governor Snyder has lied repeatedly about his knowledge of the... Yes, he has lied. He has lied about it. In fact, they knew about it long before they were willing to admit that it actually occurred. You don't understand how your political system works. Where are you from, MUI 348? MUI 343, where are you from? You said you don't understand our political system. You're from Sweden. Bernie Sanders love you. Bernie Sanders loves Sweden. Then he's running for president as well. Bernie Sanders love all these people. Oh, that's what you think. Anyhow, Bernie Sanders loved the Scandinavian countries and the countries in that region as well because of the social safety net that you have. In America, the land of the free enterprise, capitalism gone awry, we don't believe in taking care of our people if our people are somewhat marginal. We don't believe in taking care of our people if our people are not of a certain ilk. That is the truth about America. Love the country very much because if you are an independent person and you can go out there and bust your butt and make it on your own, then, and I say on your own with a caveat, but if you can go out there and make it, because to be honest with you, I created my own business and I've done everything I like to say on my own. In reality, you can't say on your own, right? Because every taxpayer who made the roads and all these other things They are a part of it. I've never looked at my success as my success. I've always looked at my success as the success of the community at large. And why do I say that? Because I went to school over here in the United States, which has great schools, great universities that we all pay for, including the taxpayers. I use the roads, which is great. I use the banking system. I use all these issues that allowed me to create a darn good business for a very, very long time. So I am not one of those capitalists who believe that, oh, I have made it. I've created 3 companies and they're doing well, and it's all because of me. I am great. Hell no. I thank every single tax-paying American and those who aren't necessarily always tax-paying, because a community is what it takes to make it. Nobody is onto himself, herself in this world, and that is what many think. Many of the theology in America right now, is about self-contained selfishness, that I made it. And when I say the theology of America, it is mostly the theology on the right. Ironically, those on the right are the ones who most use the social services of the United States. If we break down all the states in the United States and see where all the federal dollars are going, the federal dollars predominantly go to the states whose politicians are against helping others. So, while all the states that support policies that support others are sending money to these poor states continue to elect people who lie to them, having them believe that somehow they are the takers, not the makers. So, anyhow, we should come to the realization, quick, those that are listening that are Americans, that nobody is an island. Nobody came into doing this on their own. Nobody did it by themselves. Everybody had help, whether you know it or not. And for all those, it's interesting because there's a narrative that Trump and others would like to put out when they're dissing minorities, right? A lot of times they like to diss minorities as takers. I tell you something, and I tell you something straight about makers and takers. The reality is, not because one makes $500,000, $250,000, mean they have contributed anything to society. Because I tell you, those immigrants who are picking tomatoes, and those immigrants who are picking lettuce, and those immigrants are getting the oranges and all the fruit trees, absent those people, you could not afford to feed yourself, or you would have to spend quite a bit more feeding yourself. So they are not a net negative to society. They add to the society. For all the folks, a lot of times many like to look at, there's a higher percentage of black folks on welfare. Oh, that's true. There are historical reasons why, slavery, etc. But it's a long time, you say. But yeah, they were never able to capitalize like others have. But let me tell you, there is still an unpaid debt. And while I do not believe in things like reparations, I don't, because I think that is a more complex issue than many would like to talk about. We must realize that the richness of this country came on the backs of many who gave their labor for free. Never forget that. None of us are, this is not an island. So it is important for us to learn these realities. This country, the capitalist country that we are, was built when folks who look like me was nothing but capital. When I say capital, I mean property, an engine, a motor to do work, and to do work for free. That said, in no uncertain terms am I saying that any other group, given the same conditions, are immune to that behavior as well. In effect, what I'm trying to say is human beings are human beings and have all the same proclivities to do all the same thing given their condition. Period. Now that said, that out of the way, what else do you want to talk about? We have a lot of trolls here, eh? I mean, if I had thin skin, I would be in I would be in trouble. Anyhow, folks, what else do you want to talk about? Trump and his ignorance? I think we touched on Trump again, but you want to know if Trump could be president? Let me tell my good friends that are listening to the show, Trump could definitely be president. And it seems like I have a call from 347. 347, you're on the air.
Hi there, how are you?
All right, how are you doing?
Okay, this is Jimmy Spice Curry. I called at a good time because Trump has been on my mind pretty often. I do think, if you don't mind my saying, that not only could he become president, I think he may.
Yes.
I'm not saying I support him.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems as though a lot of people in America are looking for a fascist-type leader, and I really don't think he will be good for black folks. All Latinos, all females, he seems to be sexist. In fact, he's made statements, obviously, that are anti-female,
Absolutely.
anti-Latino, anti-black. But it shows you just where America is at. If we could go for someone like Trump, then, you know, it might be time to jump on a ship and head back to Africa.
Let me tell you something.
It's going to be bad.
Dual citizenship, all I can tell you, what is your name again, sir?
Jimmy Spice.
Yeah, Jimmy, where are you? Are you here in the States?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, Jimmy, let me tell you, because I have callers from all over the world, that's why I asked. Now, Jimmy, let me tell you, you're correct, first of all, and I think you're getting a lot of hearts from Periscope here. You're on Periscope as well, for what you had to say. Now, yes, I think, first of all, I said dual citizenship is a good thing. Having dual citizenship means things go crazy, you jump ship and just go somewhere else. Now, here is the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the deal. As far as Trump, he could become president. And that is one of the reasons I think if it were a Trump-Hillary race, I do not believe Hillary beats Trump. I know all the technical folks, the political experts believe that Hillary can beat Trump. I think we need a populist to beat Trump. Because when Trump comes and he gives his message, it is correct that Trump will easily beat Hillary. Not only because he will make her, I mean, in as much as he's the biggest capitalist that will be running, he will make her the stooge of the capitalists. And the stooge of the capitalists will be morphed into the stooge of the banking system. Everybody hates the banking system, and she loses. Bernie Sanders, I think, can actually make the case. I think Bernie Sanders can actually go out there and hit the nerve, not only of young people, but of older folk. Because he's an old man that young people love. He's an older person that older folk are likely to have trust in, and his message has not changed in over 40 years. Hillary's changed. Yeah. Hillary's message has changed several times over. So I think it is time for, I hope Iowa gives her a shock, or give the system a shock, because I think, first of all, that if Trump wins Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina, it's over. Trump will be the nominee. Okay?
But Bernie does have a challenge. He reminds me of Jimmy Carter.
Right.
His disposition. There's a problem today, though. Politicians, if they're not animated and if they don't have that pretty boy look, and you know, the American voter tends to go for flamboyant, outspoken, and, you know, pushy. He is so laid back that I think many of the voters just won't believe him, even though I think he would be, from the pool that they've given us, by the way, because it's not up to us.
Right.
I think from the pool they gave us, he would be the best shot, but he would lose to Trump, because Trump is so outspoken that people will believe him. In America, if you can lie well and seem animated, we believe you.
And you know what?
If you come off alone.
I agree with you that Bernie would have to be animated, but I tell you, the old man, and I'm just saying the old man, you know, tongue in cheek, has been pretty darn animated. And I think when when you look at him side by side, first of all, Trump is not very smart. He's very slick, and he knows the media very well. So I'll give him that. I think, however, that the message that he gives is not going to be as middle class centric that touches. There's a book called The Political Brain. I don't know, I always recommend that book by I don't remember, Drew Weston. It's a good book to read. The Political Brain by Drew Weston. And the reason that book is I like to read that book is it talks about not talking just the numbers to people, because people get tired of the stats and all that kind of stuff. Talk to their hearts. And there was an incident that Bernie Sanders had with a young woman who gave her story at one of his meetings, and the way he tied her story into his message is the way that Trump would not be able to do so. Because remember, Trump had a big look at what Trump did. He had a big thing for the veterans, right? And he talked about raising money. And when he spoke about raising money, what he did is, I went to my fat cat friends and I raised $5 million, just like that. Okay, that is going to wear on people when they start to figure out that he is just a continued ward of the plutocracy. I tell you what Bernie has to do to win, in my opinion, in my humble opinion. Bernie has to have an army. In other words, it cannot be Bernie against Trump. It has to be Bernie and his army against Trump. And Trump has an army as well, but a very undisciplined army. He has a ragged army that, if exposed, will actually scare people. Because when your army consists of the skinheads, disaffected white men, and the reason I say disaffected white men is that the Democratic Party is full of white men who want to do good. The Republican Party is filled with white men who feel that their birthright is being taken away. There are two splits here, and that is the real issue. When we get to the point where, and this is a term I use almost in every show that I do, including the one on KPFT. When we unite Appalachia, the ghettos, and the barrios, then the progressive populist candidate wins. Now that is a stereotype. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about Latinos. I'm talking about blacks, minorities, and poor white people. It is. Yes, it's a cliche. Yes, it's a stereotype. But when all these people realize the amount that they have in common, and realize that the divisions are being used by the plutocracy to play them, we win. And
and the native Indians, don't forget. Because if we can unite the fact that, one, we took people's land, we brought Irish and slaves here to do the work, right?
Right.
And then unite with the white people who are average white people, the ones from the flower power generation,
exactly,
the ones that supported John Brown, etc. The problem is that the system has us all so divided that we don't see that connection. So we all see each other as enemies, and who wins is the rich folks on top.
But you know what we do? And that's why I do what I do. I mean, I have turned... Let me tell you my background. I have a software company, and I've turned from a software company owner, developer, into a full-time political activist. Why? Because I have a daughter, and now that my daughter has graduated college and she's working on her medical stuff, I figured I wanted to do something positive for society. As I told you, I think America is still a great place, but I think that it's changing fast with people like Trump. How do you give back? You become, if you can, a political activist. And that has been my goal, and the goal of I know a lot of people now who are doing this. They're saying, when you hear the Tea Party folks take their country back, they don't know what they're taking back. When folks like myself and others doing this same thing say, we are going to take this country back, this is what we mean. So we create shows, we create blog spots, we go out there and we don't only do these things behind line or on the internet or on air, but we actually go meet people flesh and blood, and talk to them one-on-one. And with geometric progression, I talk to 10 people, and each of those 10 people talk to 10 people, and each of those 10 talk to 10. We start to reach people, and you know what? The reality is we actually have the time. We have the time to do it, And the mere fact, Jimmy, that you're listening to this show, you're also a part of the activist crowd. You're actually a part of the revolution.
Yeah, thank you. I've been for a few decades trying to, I'm in entertainment generally, but the socially conscious is a calling. I have kids, and the world is not headed in the right direction.
Right.
And so definitely those that know better have to do better and unite, not just by talking on the radio.
Exactly.
But linking up and emailing and saying, oh, what are your resources? Here are mine. And, oh, you're in this state. I'm here. I'm in this country. I think that on radio and in similar modes of communication, we have the chance to link up. So hopefully you keep my number, and hopefully we can talk again. I'm involved in technology also, by the way.
Excellent. Well, look, go ahead and go to politicsdoneright.com and join, or politicsdoneright.com on Facebook, and click me, drop me a line how to get in touch with me. That's how we build our networks. And we'll look. There are a lot of people that are very pessimistic. There are a lot of people that are very scared right now. I'll be honest with you, I am not. I am going to continue doing what I'm doing, like many others are going to continue doing what they're doing. I don't think Trump will ultimately be the president of the United States. But here's the deal. I am in this sort of a thing for the long game. In other words, let's say for some reason America makes that huge mistake and elects a Trump. Something that 6 months ago nobody thought was even a distinct possibility. It doesn't end what we need to do. It doesn't end what we need to do, which is continue to engage in the body politic. And even if that crazy dude becomes the president, we can actually stop whomever it is from doing whatever negative things he is going to attempt to do to society. But I think the fear of a Trump will bring out a whole lot of people who normally would not vote into the fold. I think also a Bernie Sanders who's actually telling people a story that really touches them and we'll find out. And I tell you where I will really make up my mind about Bernie Sanders and Jimmy. When we get to South Carolina, if Bernie Sanders can cross that divide, the southern divide in South Carolina, and not necessarily win it, but come pretty darn close to winning it, I will at that point say, I think he could possibly do it. But I'm going to wait until then to decide if I think that's a possibility. What do you think?
Well, I think that is wise, because down near that Mason-Dixon line, there tends to be a history of, ignorance.
Right.
From slave, support of the old slave trade. I think, though, that additionally, we as a humanity, Homo sapiens, have to realize that in addition to having our national borders, we have one planet with a small amount of clean water, etc. And it may be time for us to start reaching outside of our national borders and ethnic groups. And after 100,000 years, starting to realize that putting a flag on a little piece of land when we're all sharing the same ecosystem is not necessarily a wise thing.
It's a very unwise thing, right? Right now, as China is becoming the largest polluter, what do we see? We see that their pollution comes over here. As that nuclear reactor exploded in Japan, what do we see? The beaches of California are radiated. So, I mean, you are so correct about that. It's not, false national borders are just that, false borders, because the environment knows no border. So, I mean, there are a lot of rivers that flow from the United States into Mexico. There are a lot of rivers that flow from Canada into close to the United. I mean, so all those are realities that we have to look at. So, and very few do it. I mean, there are many who try or tend to be nationalistic, not understanding that those are realities that we must and we should be looking at. I mean, I have a message here from True Wrestler. Democracy needs an active demos. Absolutely true. Demos, the people. There are too many people with interest. Yeah, you are correct, my friend. You are correct. So, look, what do you think then is going to be the outcome of Iowa, Jimmy?
I would like to hope that Trump and I think it's going to be negative. I'm a bit different from you in terms of optimism versus pessimism. I'm one of the people that's kind of in the pessimistic corner because we used to be optimistic under Obama and Jimmy Carter. I'm older than I sound. And they, in different ways weren't effective or let us down.
Right.
But I don't let that pessimism stop us. But I think Iowa and everywhere else, I think we have to start thinking beyond what we are given. Meaning, they give us the political system we vote. But we have to start thinking, wait a minute, can we also set up our own United Nations? Can we also reach out to people in the Caribbean, South America, Central America about setting up a new political party or whatever? Because if we put all our eggs in the basket that is created for us, that basket often is controlled. So I'm trying to think, how can we all unite, no matter who wins?
That is a prescient statement, my friend. That is a prescient statement. We always have to think that way. And it actually makes me happy that you have people like yourself that are calling in, right? And in as much as you may be pessimistic in the short term, I tell you what, there's nothing like changing. There's nothing like actions changing one's pessimism. You take a step forward, and then you find you have a reason to start being optimistic. I've taught myself to be a forever optimist, no matter what happens. I'm slapped down, I immediately get up and say, we got to keep moving. Well, I don't know if you remember the days when you had those fights with Fraser and Ali, or Fraser with anybody else.
Yeah.
The one thing I always admired with Fraser would be getting the crap beat out of him, but he was always moving forward. So I mean, so that's where I am at today. I honestly believe that things may get worse before they get better, but they can only get better if some of us are out there working at getting it better. Because I tell you something that a lot of people don't quite realize quite yet. And here's the reality. The reality is the cycles keep getting deeper. In other words, since 1980, we know that the middle class has been falling off its rockers. We know that progressively. There's a economist that I interviewed a few weeks ago, actually, Richard Wolff. I don't know if you ever heard of Richard Wolff. Richard Wolff is a pretty darn good economist, and I interviewed him for a piece that I was doing. And when we started talking about what has happened to the middle class since Reagan, since 1980, where the real decline started, but under Clinton somehow we had a semblance of prosperity. He has a great piece out called "Capitalism Gone." What is it? "Capitalism Gone Crazy." Something like that. Is a piece that he has out there. And I tell you what he said. He said that I hear you through Wrestler. What he actually said about the success of the 90s is look at how it was done. It wasn't done with raising people's wages. It wasn't done with any of the things that built that middle class up. It was done on people's personal credit. So I don't know if you remember in the 90s how easy it was to get a credit card. We saw limits on credit cards unheard of. We saw limits on credit cards that looked like mortgages, but the credit card companies kept giving it to you. So we had a semblance of prosperity for a very, very long time. And that semblance of prosperity gave us optimism. But it was optimism that was built on a fraud. And then came 2008. And the fraud was busted. And people think, it's all the housing collapse was the major thing. It wasn't only the housing collapse. It was the housing. It was personal credit. It was all these other issues. When you're tapped out, and everything comes to a freeze. And that's what has occurred. Interestingly, the plutocracy was even able to make a profit on the failure that they effected on the middle class. Think about that. And who paid for it? We did, again, in taxes, lower wages, and debt. And guess who bought
the same thing happened in the Great Depression.
Exactly.
Don't forget the Great Depression. And there are cycles that go on, and people that don't know history just are clueless to it.
Right.
Every so often there's this huge, we're going to help you and give you something.
Right.
They don't give without getting more back. And the same thing happened in France. The same thing happened in Egypt.
Right.
All empires, they give for a short time. They want bread, give them cake, right? But we never win because we never come together to say, wait a minute, maybe this is a setup.
Exactly.
And hopefully this time around we can say, wait, we've been here before. We've been down this road, our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents. Right. What will we do differently this time? And I think what could be different is if white people, black people, Latinos, all of us that know better, come together and reach out also to people in other countries who are tired of the same stuff and saying, look, if we go down left, they got us. If we go right, they got us. What are we going to do differently?
Right.
And I don't know. Hopefully we'll get there.
I love your attitude as far as getting people not only here in this country, but people in Saudi Arabia, people in Egypt, people all over the world together, knowing that we have a common cause and working towards it. And there are groups that are doing that. And I think that they're going to continue to do that. We are doing that. At coffeepartyusa.com, we're a group that are making these types of attempts. At movetoamend.org, we're a group that's trying to amend the Constitution to start taking some power away from corporations. I mean, it's a long haul, but it has to be a populist movement. And I think that while it will take a while, it has to happen, or else we will have chaos. And the truth of the matter is, I think the plutocracy is betting on chaos. And the reason I say that is, when you look at everybody wanting to be armed in this country, the reason why they want a hell of a lot of people armed, in my humble opinion, is to create exactly that. A scary people who some will be scared to act on others, etc., etc., etc. But you know what? I still think that we have it coming. I still think that in the long run, all of us will get the job done. I still think that absent some strange, well, let me put it this way. Absent a mass national riot occurring before we try to get together, I think we'll get together. And that is my hope. That is what I'm working towards. That's what a whole lot of people are working towards. And I think ultimately we are going to be successful as long as net neutrality remains net. You know about, you're a technical guy. You know what net neutrality is. Yeah. Net neutrality allows us to do what we're doing right here. Net neutrality allows us to connect our on-air program. I have an on-air KPFT on a Pacifica radio station program that's connected over the internet as well, so that we can sort of expand the reach. So as long as we keep all those things together, then all would be fine. Well, look, folks, we are coming to the end of the show. I thank Jimmy for calling in. I thank those who were listening at Blog Talk Radio. Saw several come in and spent 15 minutes and left and came back. And of course, my Periscope limit got pretty high today. We got up to, I think, 175 today on Periscope. Now it's down. People eventually lose interest, as it's normal with radio. But I do appreciate all the callers that called in. I do appreciate all the Periscope listeners that were listening, all several hundred of you that ultimately came and left. And we will be back next week. We will have an organized topic then. Before I leave, I just have to say it was one of those days. I had a difficult week, and I said, you know what? I won't have the time to prepare the show like I normally do, with a blog of the week written out specifically for the show, and also with detailed topics. Of course, you guys always change my topics, but it is your show. It will always be your show. We'll be back next week, and we'll talk about a subject at hand, and we'll be more organized at that time. Thank you again. I appreciate the time that you've given me today. You have a wonderful, wonderful rest of the weekend. And do remember, stay engaged in the body politic. Don't let anybody, make nobody tell you that you are not a part of this system. Don't let anybody tell you that your vote doesn't count. Don't let anybody stop you from voting. And by the way, anybody listening to this, you go out there and make sure you're registered to vote. Here in Texas, they're taking a whole lot of people off the rolls. Don't allow them to do that. Before the election, now, in fact, make sure that you are on the rolls. Go register and also get a receipt to prove that you're registered. Because this election they will be trying all kinds of things on this election this year. We can mitigate it. They can try. We can stop them. We run this country. We, the people, is really we, and I said is, yes, is, really we, the people. Have a wonderful Saturday, and with that, I'm out. Jimmy, thank you for having been with us, and this is the end of Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is the progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. Remember, you can also send me a tweet to EGBERTOWILLIES. That is, at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
1, 2, 3, 4.